Hello, everyone. Matt Clark, research analyst for Money and Markets and host of the Bull and the Bear podcast, back with our weekly marijuana market update. Well, if you can believe it, we're less than a week away from concluding one of the most contentious elections in modern American history. I don't want to talk about the candidates or their platforms. You can find that anywhere. What I do want to do today is discuss the future of the cannabis industry in the fourth quarter of 2020 and into 2021. I gave my post-election stock forecast in a recent episode of the Bull and the Bear podcast. You can listen to that podcast and on any number of podcast syndicators or watch the video here on our YouTube channel. Just look for it down below. While I don't see a big drop or any significant gains in the overall market because of the election, unless those results drag out or become contested as they were in 2000, there are some strong implications for the cannabis market coming up next Tuesday. For one, 5 states will be deciding whether to legalize cannabis in some form or another. Arizona, Montana, and New Jersey voters will decide on whether to legalize recreational cannabis use. Mississippi has 2 ballot measures to legalize medical cannabis use, and South Dakota voters, in a kind of a rare deal, will vote on 2 initiatives, one to legalize medical cannabis and another to legalize recreational use. Now, I did some research, and I found that New Frontier Data, which is a cannabis research firm, found that if all of those measures pass, it would collectively add $9.3 billion in revenue to the legal cannabis market through 2025. That's pretty impressive. Their projections found the cannabis industry could have revenue of $38.3 billion by 2025 if all of those ballot measures are approved. To put that in perspective, the industry is looking at revenue of around $19.1 billion in 2020. That's a 100% growth in revenue in just 5 years. Pretty impressive. But that figure includes if all 5 ballot measures pass in the election. Now, if all ballot measures fail, New Frontier still projects that the cannabis revenue could reach around $35 billion by 2025, which is an 83% climb. Still very impressive. Another stat I found interesting was if all 5 measures pass in November, more than 70% of the U.S. population will live in a state where cannabis is legal in some form. Can you imagine if I'd have told you that was the case in 15 years ago? You'd probably laugh at me and say that was probably not possible. But those revenue numbers have to have cannabis companies rather salivating. Now, in terms of the state's elections, there are 2 I would watch closely. The first is Arizona. The state has a sizable population, more than about 7.2 million as of 2019, and getting recreational cannabis approved would be a huge boom for the industry. The second to watch is New Jersey. Now, this is particularly interesting because approving adult use cannabis could set off a ripple effect in the Northeast. If it does pass, you'll start to see an influx of residents from New York and Pennsylvania rush into New Jersey to purchase their cannabis because it's not legal for adult use in either New York or Pennsylvania. That would leave state officials in those states scratching their heads, especially when they see the potential revenue from cannabis sales going next door instead of into their own coffers. Now, you have to consider the first year of legalization in Illinois, about 20%, around 25% of all recreational cannabis sales in Illinois came from out-of-state residents. So that's kind of interesting to see what would happen in New Jersey. No other state surrounding Illinois has legal adult use laws on the books. Only Missouri allows full medical cannabis use, while Indiana, Wisconsin, Iowa, and Kentucky have limited medical use laws. While passage in Montana and Mississippi could move conservative states to looking at cannabis usage laws, South Dakota remains an interesting situation. Typically, states kind of grow, no pun intended, into adult use legality. They start with legalizing medical use, and then a year or 2 later, they approve adult use, or at least they look at approving adult use. In South Dakota, voters could become the first state to go from complete illegality to fully legal in one election. That's telling. I don't know if it's going to pass or not. I'm not really sure, how things look in terms of South Dakota. But it is kind of an interesting thing that they would get ballot measures on a presidential ballot that would include recreational use approval as well as medical use in the same form. The bottom line here is that next Tuesday will impact the presidency and the Congress, which we all know. But it will also have a massive impact on the cannabis industry. The potential to have 5 new markets opened up for either medical, adult use, or both could be just the thing cannabis stocks need to reverse course after a difficult 2019 and 2020. Adding potentially up to $10 billion in new revenue is massive for the industry. Now, will they all pass? Hard to say. But just imagine what will happen if they do. Regardless, I expect to see marginal changes to the market in the fourth quarter of 2020, but results in November could start seeing cannabis companies really ramp up expansion efforts to get ready for new state legalization laws to take effect possibly in 2022. Even if laws in Arizona and New Jersey pass, we could see a rush of cannabis players jockeying for position to obtain licenses to sell medically or recreationally. 2021 could be a strong year for the cannabis industry in so many ways. So it'll be interesting to see what Election Day has in store for the market. Now, what I want to do to kind of close things out, I want to check in on our cannabis watch list, which we have listed on Money and Markets. If you remember, 2 weeks ago, I added a tobacco company that has kind of transitioned slowly into the cannabis field. And it really hasn't disappointed. Turning Point Brands Incorporated trades on the New York Stock Exchange under the ticker TPB, recently entered into agreement to acquire Wild Hempets LLC, which is a manufacturer of hemp cigarettes. It also invested $3 million in Recreation Marketing, a Canadian distribution company that supports various cannabis and CBD products. Turning Point rated an 82 on Chief Investment Strategist Adam Odell's 6-factor Green Zone rating system, scores high in size, scores high in quality, scores high on growth. In just 2 weeks' time, Turning Point shares have jumped more than 6%. And that's really boosted the overall watch list. If you look at a couple of our other picks on the watch list, Schweitzer Mountain International trades on the New York Stock Exchange under SWM, is the best performer on our watch list, gaining nearly 12% since I put it on the list on September 1st. Perkin-Elmer Incorporated trades on the New York Stock Exchange under PKI, is a cannabis testing company. It gained quite a bit, as much as about 9% earlier this month, but has pulled back since and is up about 3.5%. Our fourth stock, Scott's Miracle-Gro Company, trades on the New York Stock Exchange under SMG, has been hit hard by awful weather in the U.S. It's actually starting to snow in the plains in Texas, but I'm still confident the stock will rebound. That's about all for me this week. I'd like to say I really love the feedback that you're giving me on our YouTube channel and throughout our email. Remember, the email address to send comments, questions, and stocks you'd like me to take a look at is feedback@moneyandmarkets.com. Don't forget to email me while you're interested in cannabis stocks. I'd love to read what you have to say. And if you are interested in listening to the Marijuana Market Update before anyone else, just make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and get alerted when a new release is updated. Just go to youtube.com, type in Money and Markets, click the subscribe button, and then make sure you'll get a notification bell. Click that notification bell, and you'll get notified each and every time we put out a new video. And the same goes for our Bull and the Bear podcast, as well as our Week Ahead and any other videos that we put out on our YouTube channel. We usually post videos to YouTube, to our podcast channel, or YouTube about a day or so before they actually come out on moneyandmarkets.com. So subscribing is a good way to get information first so you can take action immediately. Coming up this week, we'll have more on the Bull and the Bear podcast, our Money Markets Week Ahead, and much more, so stay tuned. Also, check out moneyandmarkets.com each and every day for new content that provides safe and profitable investment information for you. I'm Matt Clark, research analyst for Money and Markets, the host of the Bull and the Bear podcast. Until next time, everyone, safe trading.